will start.
Yang langsung ketujuh. Sama.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon for you there. How are you today?
Good afternoon, ma'am. We're fine. You?
I'm good too. Yeah.
I'm good, ma'am.
So today will be our last meeting regarding the material for the whole semester, and next week we will have a quiz to see how much you have learned, right? It's a quiz, but you got to remember that the final exam for for introduction to literature class will be a project, and we will talk about this in the end of the meeting today. And now let's come to our material. So what will we learn today? What will we learn today?
We're going to learn about postmodern era of literature.
Exactly, the postmodern era of literature. So after you search from some sources, do you have any idea what postmodernism is and why I ask you to search post-structuralism and post-colonialism at the same time when we learn about postmodernism? Any of you have the idea? Yeah, remember your participation is quizzed. Any thought? Any idea about postmodernism? Any idea about postmodernism? What makes postmodernism different from modernism? We have learned modernism, right? It contained the same word, modern. But what makes postmodernism different from modernism? So Verdi answered, it starts in 1960. Good. What else? What else do you know about postmodernism? Are you living in modernism or postmodernism right now? Or maybe you are living in dark age? Who knows? Give me some thought. Hello, hello. Oh, another chat. Modernism, because it continues again from 2000 until now. So you meant we are now living in modernism era, because the modernism era, even though postmodern started something 1960, but the modernism still continues. Is that what you meant? Okay, let's see. Any other thought? A late 20th century movement. It's modernism or postmodernism? Didi Susan Millennia. It can be both, right? Okay, postmodernism, ma'am. Yeah, because modernism start in the early 20th century, right? And then postmodernism is kind of late 20th century. Okay, so um, um, previously I asked you to prepare yourself with the material, of course, postmodernism, and then postcolonialism and poststructuralism, and I asked you to review on the movie, the anime movie, the cartoon movie, Shrek, and also the Roman adopted movie, the Earth of Mankind, and then also what else? The last one, Stinky Cheeseman and other stupid fairy tales, right? So after you review those three sources, how do you feel first? Give me your impression first. What do you think about those three materials? Just, personal feeling, it's okay. I like it, I don't like it, why? Something like that. Just make me feel I'm not talking alone right now. You don't turn on your camera and I just see my own screen and I see myself. Rizvi said, Stinky Cheeseman story is weird. Okay. Why do you think Stinky Cheeseman story is weird? Tell me more. But don't you think Shrek is also weird? There's never the princess is an orc. Is orc. Yeah, Shrek has various story in the movie. Yeah, it's true. It's like the combination of some fairy tales, like the normal fairy tales, and they construct the story becoming kind of a weird one for you, or we can say weird. But what is weird actually? It's just because something doesn't follow the rule, so it's weird. So we are weird now because we are not having the class in the classroom. Instead, I'm here, you are there, we are far away, and we call this teaching. I think it's weird too for modern people, right? Maybe that's called postmodernism. Something weird. I don't know. Bumi Manusia is a nice movie to watch and learn about postmodernism, feminism, and positive. Okay. Postcolonialism. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I hope before we are now in this platform, I hope you already prepare yourself, even though you still have sketched idea about things we are gonna learn today. But at least you have your cup half full, and we can make it kind of almost full today. Okay, so I have one more comment. I personally like Bumi Manusia. This movie has a lot of historical and post-colonial, and it's interesting. Yeah. And honestly speaking, if you read the Roman, the tetralogy of Bumi Manusia, you will hate the movie so much because it doesn't fulfill your imagination about the story. Yeah. I, as I told you repeatedly, I can say, Pramudia Anantatur write a very, like, a very good narrative, kind of narrative story, and it's so powerful, and the image reflected in the movie is not enough to be fully reflecting the writing of Anantatur. Therefore, I suggest you, and after this, even though nobody asks you to do so, but I suggest you to read the tetralogy. Why? Number one, because it helps you to understand your identity as a nation, you know, because we will talk later about post-colonialism, right? So by reading Pram's work, it will help you to understand the national identity. You know, what is that mean? What does it mean by being colonized? You know, what is colonialization, and what is good about it? You know, because it's not always bad things, but many bad things happen. And then and we can reflect it as we ourselves to see us as a post-colonized nation. I have another comment. In Shrek film, it has this character, Mr. Merlin, and Lancelot from Arthurian. It makes confused a bit. Yeah. So the Lancelot and Merlin was from King Arthur, right? Yeah. Okay, so let me share the screen for you, and I hope it will help us understand the concept. Wait. Oh, oh. It's not here. It's here. Share. So can you see the screen now? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
3,000 years later.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so basically the slide that you see on your screen is about postmodernism, and I will insert the post-structuralism and post-colonialism in it later. Okay, so our objective today is we got to understand the main difference between modernism and postmodernism, and then the fundamental theory of postmodernism. Why it's called postmodernism, and if we look back to the previous era of literature, we also we also encountered that every philosophical movement, every era, everything has the historical or sociological or cultural background why it happened, right? So that's for postmodernism in this period, in this time. So now, what is postmodernism? And yeah, you have searched for 1 week. I hope you have the idea. And then so basically modernism is notoriously difficult concept to define. Yeah, we talked about this last week, that if modernism is here, if this is modernism, so postmodernism trying to understand modernism, it's beyond it. Does beyond mean above? No, it's just not just, it's the idea to rethink, so that you deconstruct the thought of modernism. Why? There must be there must be a reason for why people come up with postmodernism, right? So to understand postmodernism, you got to understand the historical behind it, and then of course the implementation of like stylistic implementation of the postmodernism, and then basic theory. The theorist, or classically we call philosopher. Okay. So as we mentioned before, postmodernism is a reaction to modernism. So therefore, to understand postmodernism, we need to understand modernism first. So let us recall what happened during postmodernism era last time. We discussed this last week. What happened? There are two big things happen during modern era after after King after Queen Victoria passed away, and then especially in England, okay, because well, I don't want you to get confused for the thing we learn, postmodernism, modernism, this like Renaissance or the previous era happened mostly in all over Europe or sometimes all over the world. However, in our material, in our class, we focus on the concept um, in in English, in England specifically, even though sometimes we go beyond it. For example, for today's theorists of postmodernism, basically they are French, and but but the theory help us to understand what happened in England as well, maybe in the world if we need to talk about it. Okay, so tell me, two things happen in modern era that make people think about this is what really we want to. Ada message. Apa kata message-nya? Yes, ma'am. Okay. What happened? What happened? What are two major things happen during modern era? Am I talking to myself now? Respond, please. No answer? Seriously? If you are in my class, I kick you out from my class. Okay. Right now, the European power. Previously, we have message. Wait. The development and growth of United States during modern era was influenced by helping Europe recover from World War II, US involvement in other wars, mainly the Cold War and Soviet Union, Vietnam and Korean War. Okay, good. European power began to expand their politics, economic, culture, influence the rest of the world. They did the movement from traditional concept and rules for the base of technology development at the time, advancement of social science, natural science. Okay, all you say are mainly correct, but what I really ask you is the two things happened during the modern era is the two World War I and World War II. And then these two milestones make people think of, is this really what we want? Why it become the milestone? Because as you remember, especially during the World War II, there were atomic bomb not fallen, yeah, fallen in Japan. So what does it mean? The atomic bomb is the creation, is the achievement of science. People think so hard to make atomic bomb, so it's a sophisticated invention, but for what? To to destroy the human life. Is that what science is for? So people start to question things like that. And people think about the power, you know, like Nazi power. What it end finally is to destroy human for the Holocaust, for example. So people start to think, you know, what power, what science, what technology is really for. Is it really for the positivity of human development? And then as a matter of fact, it's not really, even though there are, you know, like nothing perfect in this word. So next, computer, please faster than my brain. Yeah. So as I said before, the postmodernism is the to conclude. Modernism is the experimenting with the representation of reality. You know, people start to make the reality more reality, such as the invention of the machine, you know, like, and then also as the impact of industrial revolution, we have high culture, good and low culture, you know, like this is a high culture, you know, like we have the gap. And then by this gap we also understand the norm, the concept, right? The general concept. So the structure, the norm is the structure. This is good, this is bad, this is okay, this is not okay, like that. So all with the structure. And for example, like this, think, so do you think this structure, this building is kind of modern or postmodern architecture? It has the simplification of form, the elimination of ornament. Remember, if you remember the cathedral or the building or the chateau during old period, during Renaissance, or during, I don't know if you remember Renaissance period, all the ornament in the ceiling, you know, the fat lady was in the ceiling naked. But if you look at this building, you find the building like in the picture on your screen now. Do you think you can find the painting of the naked lady holding the flower giving to another very gentleman in the ceiling? Will you find that things? No, right?
No.
Yeah, there is more simplification because in modern era people think simpler. What is the ornament in the ceiling for? No, it's more about the function, right? And then the form. Look, if you remember the the building in British Parliament, which were burnt and rebuilt, the structure was built during restoration era. However, they bring the concept um, of what you call it, um, ancient Greek, yeah, neoclassical. So look, the building of the parliament, the parliament building, British Parliament building was not like this. But you know, if parliament building of British Parliament building was built after World War, it will be like this, you know. It will not be the structure. So the building, the architecture in all over the world will reflect, is reflecting the when they were built and in when they were built. If you want to see the building in Jakarta, mostly are like this, right? Yeah. because the building was not built during Renaissance or Restoration era. But you still can find some, like during 18th century, because Dutch come to Batavia during 18th century, so you will see some building like Istana Kepresidenan. No, Istana Kepresidenan is not. No, like the cathedral in Jakarta, for example, it was built by Dutch, so it's kind of a Gothic, I can say. Yeah, so after this class, I hope you can think more than just it's a tall building. But the thing is, it's kind of complicated for us in Pontianak, right? Even this kind of building we hardly find, right? Maybe the closer building to this is Hotel Horizon. Am I right? Hotel Horizon? Hotel Haris, or yeah, we don't really have this kind of structure, right? Okay, next, whatever. Next, so this is the art, yeah, and then the art is more reflecting too. So you can tell here, even though it's a little bit weird, but this is the picture of two human being, two human head, right? Yeah, and then this family, mother, father, two daughter, boy and girl. This is family according to modern people. Yeah, right? Oh, that's modern. What about modern? Look at this. This is the building using the concept of postmodernism. Oh la la. It's like after earthquake or what? Yeah, because the postmodernism, we think about what modern people think. In this case, is in the architecture. They want to deconstruct. What is deconstruct? To rethink and rebuild. I don't like the word re, because re is, for example, this building, if you rebuild, it's broken, and you build the same way, it's rebuild. But if you say they build, it's broken, and then it's like this, it's different from this, it's like this, it's they build. So the word they, the preposition they here. Okay, next. Wait, that's the architecture. It's so different from the tower before we see. And about the art, do you know what is this? What is this? Somehow it looks like men's toilet, but somehow for me it's like a nipple, right? But it's not nipple. Any idea of what is this? I don't know. But if I say this is a toilet, according to postmodernism, it's acceptable because they are the freedom to interpret everything. Because your interpretation matters. Yeah. Or if you want to say, this is a mountain. Okay, just give the reason. Or this, what is this? This is art. So especially when we come to the art, we have the parody also. If you remember some glasses fallen down in the Museum of Art, glasses was on the floor, and people think it was an art. So everybody take a picture of it. As a matter of fact, it's just a glasses of someone falling down, right? Yeah, because the interpretation of art is unlimited and people are free to interpret. Sometimes it's silly, but does it mean it's wrong? It's not, because we are on the era of a free interpretation time. Before I show you the nucleus family, right? Look, who is this? Angelina Jolie. With whom? With the husband. And the kids, maybe it's another kid because it's impossible. Brad Pitt has the kid like this with Angelina Jolie, right? But this is normal family. They can adopt, for example. But what is postmodern or alternative model of family during postmodern era? Is like this. Man can marry man. Woman can marry woman. Because the structure of marriage was questioned by people. Do we really do do we do we need to marry someone from other sex just to call a family? So that's why the LGBT era was one of the form of postmodernism implementation. Well, until here, if you know uh, if you go back to the religious thought, you will never meet the agreement, because as I said before, in literature and in philosophy, we try to think we try to think freely to understand all the concepts. Does it mean we have to receive? It's up to you. But first of all, we have to know first. We have to know the concept, then we choose, right? So that when we choose, for example, to marry someone with the same sex, we have the foundation. We will not only feel guilty because we understood it. This is the concept of postmodern. It's LGBT. There is no exact structure of the family, right? And it's love. Love has no sex, something like that. And then what else? Uh, so how can we define postmodernism? So in the text, what embody the text of postmodernism is are the the idea of progress, the objectivity, the reason of certainty, and a grand narrative. I will explain. So, what kayaknya waktu udah mau habis deh ya, 4 menit lagi. So, what is the grand narrative? The grand narrative is the structure, like grand is big, narrative is, narrative, the storyline. So the grand narrative is a big structure of a story. So like Shakespearean concept of narrative or literature, in Shakespeare, you have two choices: happy ending, or you call it comedy; sad ending, or you call it tragedy. It's concept, right? It's structure. It's a grand narrative. So, and then for another example is the fairy tale. There have the structure. There must be a very beautiful, desperate woman, girl, living in a poverty with stepmother or maleficent kind of lady. And in the end, they will the girl are waiting for the prince, the Prince Charming, for happy ending, happily ever after, is the grand narrative. And this concept was questioned by postmodernists. The what is what is a fairy tale for? It's for the kids. To say what? To give the hope for the kids. Oh kids, now even though you are like bersakit-sakit dahulu, in the end you will be bersenang-senang kemudian. For the kids. Well, for whom? For the woman. It helps the woman to have the concept in their head. It's okay, young lady, now you can be suffering, but later on you will meet your Prince Charming, because you know what? What will make you happily ever after is your Prince Charming. So this concept, was so questioning. Is that so? Is that the fact that the happily ever after woman depends on the Prince Charming, or the desperate is caused by stepmother? Is that the grand narrative of everything in this world? Not really, right? So that's why the postmodern people, such as Siska and John Siska and what is the other guy name? Wrote Stinky Cheeseman and other very stupid tale. They say fairly stupid tale, agak bodoh, cerita agak bodoh gitu, fairly stupid tale. One of the story there is about ugly duckling. I have 1 minute to tell about ugly duckling. So the old story of ugly duckling, the modern story, the modern story of ugly duckling, or maybe I can say the grand narrative concept of ugly duckling is that there was once upon a time a little duckling. He's very ugly, and their brother and sister hate him so much because he is so ugly, but he's so patient, and then one day he become a very beautiful swan. Oh my god, if you are ugly, you just ugly, unless you go to Korea, have plastic surgery, right? And that's why in the story of Stinky Cheese Man and Very Stupid Tale, they deconstruct this story, Say like, once upon a time, there is a duckling. He's so ugly, and the sister and the family hate him because he's so ugly. So as time goes by, he become a very ugly duckling. Yeah, I think it's more reasonable, right? More makes sense, so that our little kid will know that, okay, you know what, if you are ugly, don't expect you will be beautiful one day in the future, unless you make effort right now, keep your money and then do plastic surgery or skincare or do whatever, because nothing is like happily ever after instantly, or just by time waiting, so that's what they want to deconstruct. Okay, I think we are running out of the time. And when we come back, we will talk about